You slaved away for hours, trying again and again to get the perfect design, but something isn't right. Hello, my name is Robin Woods, and I am an artist with a degree, a game art degree, so I hope I can give you some sort of insight into making better VTuber designs. This will be a short series going over each stage as I make my own model, so feel free to jump around if there's something you really struggle on. And don't forget to pay your tuition fee by liking and subscribing. Today, we begin on the most important part, the brief. It's like the foundations of a building, the skeleton of a vertebrate. But why? I just want to draw, you may ask. And trust me, I used to hate this too. But you can only make cool and funky designs if you feed your brain with some really good source to draw from. But one big rule that will really help you is to avoid adding too many characters to your reference sheet. It might influence you a little too much on the design, and I think they're best used as vibe markers to kind of see what style you're hitting. This will also help you avoid copying comparisons too, which are plentiful these days. It'll be easier if I show you my process as I go, so let's begin. Okay, so what we have here is the kind of rough idea, who is this character? What are they about? What's the theming of it? Is it any kind of vibe you want to go with? Is there anything else? Kind of writing down these notes really helps with getting those references and kind of figuring stuff out, because without this, you can get a little bit lost. And this gives you a concise, okay, we're not going here, we're not going there, we're going to we're doing these things. So, what I start off doing, which is more difficult these days, is I use Pinterest. And Pinterest is definitely an AI image hellscape these days, but you can still find normal images, you can still find stuff, you can train your feed to show you less AI if you stop clicking on it and stuff, so it'll always come up, but you can get it to show it to you less if you just teach it not to. So what I've got for the vibe is I'm kind of thinking Final Fantasy, modern Final Fantasy, sort of sci-fi fantasy vibe, a little bit of punk, a little bit of punk aesthetic, because I'm really liking some stuff on this. This looks really, really cool. Love these shorts and stuff. And this is only a small sample of photos. I'll find other stuff. I'll find stuff historically related. I'll find stuff completely random, maybe even car parts. Just look at anything, look places that you don't expect, and I'll do a follow-up on this actually where I come back to the board with a lot more references. And the other thing I wanted to point out was the inspirations. So, of course, Robin uses a lot of green. So I can pick these two and I can know, okay, I'm probably not going to overlap too much. But of course, we've got Dante from Devil May Cry and Velvet from Tales of Berseria. And they both have kind of a vibe I want. This is kind of a route we're going to go. But I think the important thing to note is I haven't put any actual thief characters here. And that is because I think putting specific images of exactly what you want is a bad idea, because it's how you end up with people who have very similar VTuber designs to people say aquatic VTubers have a very similar silhouette, and that might be because they're looking at images of those VTubers while designing their own, which is really bad, because then you kind of subconsciously, even if you don't mean to, you subconsciously take things from it, and you don't really want to do that, because then you get maybe a nasty call out or something. So let's not do that. Let's grab other inspirations of stuff that gives the right vibe, but maybe not exactly what you want, because you'll find details and little things that maybe you wouldn't have thought of. I'm really liking a lot of little loose dangly bits. A lot of loose dangly bits, there's a lot of ripped fabric, there's a lot going on here, which is cool. It gives you inspirations. I definitely want some kind of long jacket thing. I think that's what I'm what I'm gathering from this. But on the other end, it's I'm definitely not going to include an image of Cypher, because there would be a big overlap there. And it would be pretty bad if I ended up too similar to Cypher. So she is not going on the board, and we are going to avoid that to make sure we do not end up like her, because comparison can be bad for something like VTubing where your branding matters a lot. Being too similar or comparable to, say, another VTuber or another popular anime character can be detrimental to you and your brand, so it's better to avoid it, just straight up. And lastly, I'm definitely going to grab more references. Wix and 3D assets are great to look at for anime hair specifically. And I say that because it's kind of different to how you draw normal hair. There's a lot more going on, there's a lot more layering that you'd never have in real life. So looking at, say, cosplay wigs and similar stuff, or 3D models, can really help you, and you can get like a full turnaround so you can see exactly what you want to go for. And they're really nice, so I only grabbed a few so far. I kind of roughly know what I want to do, but not too strong yet, so it's a starting point. So I'll come back to this once it has a load more images. Okay, my voice is doing better, so now I can actually talk and explain what I'm doing. So, to explain this first pass, we've basically just done silhouettes, and I've added 2 tones to a second set. Why am I doing this? Because your silhouette is probably one of your most important details. It will help people read you, it will be easy to just make recognizable shapes. Recognizable shapes. Good. I didn't script this, can you tell? But basically, recognizable shapes, good for the brand, means that your character design is going to be very, very juicy. It's going to have a lot of sauce to it. Because it was all very simple, like you'd say these 2 silhouettes here, I'd say are really bit boring. Like this one's got the sleeve stuff going on, but this one's just really, really, really boring. Which can work in character design, sometimes you want that, but for VTubers typically you want a really loud and shouty design. You want stuff that you can smack on merch and people will be like, hell yeah, that looks cool. So that's what we're going with here. So now I've added the second tone, and this is because when it comes to something I've noticed with VTubing designs, I find a lot of VTubers get lost in these small details. They have a lot of itty bitty, teeny tiny little details that aren't necessarily adding much. So by doing this, you are forcing yourself to look at it and think, like, to be fair, arguably you can say like this is like tertiary detail, which yeah, it kind of is. But by breaking it down to just be the biggest shapes in the design, you can quickly get an idea of how it's gonna kind of come together and what people are gonna see when it's all on full design, and you don't get lost in just spending ages doing tiny little doodles for like a little thing that no one's really gonna see. So this is like thinking of the core elements of a design. Which was interesting. With my ref sheet, I didn't realize I was going to accidentally go the black rock shooter route. I also, about halfway through, I held my head in my hands because I was like, oh, we're getting close to king. We're getting dangerously close to king. So I think I've managed to dodge that a little bit. And this is why you never go with your first silhouette, by the way. Like, even with this, let me turn on all of these now. This is why you never ever go with your first designs, because sometimes you start it and it's like, oh yeah, I'm cooking, this looks great, I love it, it's so cool, it's so fantastic. And then you iterate again, and it's like, okay, the last one sucked. And you're not really gonna know that until you do more iterations and you keep on drawing on top of what you've done. And like, be less afraid, just draw on top of things. Just keep painting on top. Add layers and layers. No one's gonna know. No one's gonna know, no one's gonna care, because this is like the messy stage and it matters most to you. So here we go, going through, I experiment with different things. So typically when you're doing game design, you would kind of explore these a little bit deeper, do a bunch more stages. I'm lazy, so I just do like the essential bits. So I do like, okay, here's some basic notans. Okay, here's like the cleaner, bigger idea. Because I feel like with VTubers, you only really need to focus on the front view. Like the back view is nice to have. However, you want to think about the initial graphic read heads on, because that's what people are going to see. And not to mention, people are also mainly going to be seeing like this half of the model. We're only going to be seeing the upper half. So you really want to think about getting some good detail, good juice in that. And that's why you kind of often see, I believe it's like a 70-30 rule some people use, where a lot of the details crammed in the top, which I'm kind of breaking with having the laddering these lace bits down the middle of the jeans, but it's fine, it's fine. It makes the design more complete, more juice. What we're doing is we're just trying to pack as much sauce in and figuring out what's good sauce and what's bad sauce, because yeah, you can mix like ketchup and mayo and like it'll come out nice. However, I can't think of any bad sauce combos. I don't know, a mayo and hoisin or something, it's gonna be bad. So that's what you're kind of doing. You're trying to figure out like what's the best elements I can add and where do I stop? Where do I say, okay, that's enough? And I'm quite happy with these. I'm not too sure about the back bit. This is the one thing I'm uncertain about, is this little back bit of cloak. Because I think it looks kind of nice without, and I think there's a really strong read here without it, because you have the ears, you have the tufts, and you have the little buckles coming off the jacket. So I feel like it's strong enough without it, but I don't know, because I quite like the idea of it. I like the idea of it, however I also think it might be blocking in the silhouette a little bit too much, so I feel like maybe having this like cleaner read, and also I forgot to draw any tails on any of these, whoopsie. But like with the tail added in and like having it like maybe lower down would really work, so that's what I'm thinking, but yeah. Now, I'm going to do the most important stage when it comes to character design, and I'm not going to look at these for like a couple of hours and forget about them, so I can come back and think, oh, that's terrible, I hate it. So we'll be back in a bit. Okay, hello, it is me, Future Robin, and I have finally continued this. So I'm back a day later, and it was very much needed. Very, very much needed. Because now I'm looking at this and I'm like, yeah, this doesn't have much of a fantasy read, doesn't really have the thief read I wanted. It really bothers me how similar it looks to King from Zenless, just in vibe. So what I did was came back to it and I looked again at my reference sheet. I was figuring out what was missing, and I realized to make fantasy you need a load of belts. You just need an absurd amount of belts and it'll do it. There's some extra stuff like having the armor on the shoulder and stuff, but that's kind of where we go with it. And then I did a load of color experimentation. I usually just go through every gradient map I have until I find one that kind of works, and I really like this matchup at the moment. This is definitely the one I think is the strongest. I feel like I need to recolor this shoulder pad just so it looks more metally, because I don't like how it's blending in with the hair at the moment, but I think we've got it. I'm feeling pretty confident in this one, so I think it's time for me to move on to the big sketch, which I will be doing soon. Okay, 3, 2, 1. I did it! It's done! So for this stage, what I've done is I've redrawn everything on bigger scales, so it's a little bit clearer, and it looks a bit closer to how the final thing will kind of look. And it took a while. It took a good old while. We did a lot of this neon green one, very fun. I don't think it fits the vibes. But we experimented, we had fun, we figured it out. For the final design, I think I'm going to go with this one on the left, and if I just hide all of these, and that one, oops. I think this is V1. I think this is good. And we've got everything I was aiming for. So we've got all the design keys. We've also got a pretty solid silhouette. It could be better. It definitely could be better, I think. Like, there's definitely some distinction. I did bring back the floofy sleeves because it just needed a little bit of something up there. I think the silhouette's pretty good. I think the little pointy bits is really helping on this. And a little bit of asymmetry is pretty good as well, so could maybe do pushing some more shapes, but that's for more experimentation. But as it is now, I'm pretty happy with it. I did do some other stuff. I was trying to figure out which kind of is. The elf ears are pretty nice. Maybe I'll have them as a toggle, but I don't think I'll end up sticking with them. I also tried green sleeves, and I don't really like them. At first I did, but I think they blend in to the top bit a bit too much, so we experimented, we found out, and I have a design that I think is okay-ish. It's aight, it's pretty aight, so yeah, that's finally done. So that was the design process. I hope this was somewhat informative, if not interesting. I am open to feedback, so if you have any thoughts on what this design needs, I'd love to hear them in the comments. I will be following up on the next part soon, where I create the model art for my live 2D. I also stream pretty often, so if you haven't already, consider subscribing. Thank you for watching.